Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Dan-A-Plooza. My guest at this time is returning guest, author and artist, Michael Machung.
All right. Always great to be here. Thank you once again for reinviting me.
You're welcome, Michael. For those watching, future watching, check out Michael Machung. His book, The Imperium. He's having some installments that we're going to talk about during this podcast. Also, on the website, check out darkhorrorbooks.com. It's where you can order a copy of The Imperium. And I assume all the installments will be on there when they become available. There's also, I still believe, maybe possibly a discount code within ordering that. Or if you want the quick and easy way like I did, it is on Amazon. I did order it, 2-day shipping. So that's your second alternative. Michael, welcome back.
All right, man. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Where are you now from where we left off last time as far as your book, The Imperium? Are you on a new installment right now?
That's a good question. All right. So we're talking 8 months ago, and a lot of evolution that had taken place from then to now. All right. And so the Empyrean is already complete. It's done. It's published, and it's available, And I have a copy right here to show you as well as your viewers. This is what the book looks like. All right.
Alrighty.
You got that intimidating eye staring right at you. Okay. And as I mentioned previously, when you read the book, you'll understand the significance of that eye. All right. And of course, in the background here, you got a picture of yours truly. That's right. And of course, gives me a brief bio. Okay. And well, that's a synopsis of the book. Gives you a brief description of what it's all about. And here's the bio right here and all that stuff. And as you can see, embedded within the cover is one of my paintings of the main antagonist, Caleb Cornelius. Okay.
Yeah.
And so far, people are taking a quick liking to him. And they right to say he's awesome. He's crazy. He's interesting. Well, I spent about 10 years creating them, so it's all good. And of course, within the book, got some illustrations. I'm gonna go ahead. I'll show you a couple before we go on to the next segment. Right here is, of course, a space station. I showed the printout of that in the first interview. That's in there. Okay, what else? Of course, that's where they land on that alien world. Okay, and right there is a quick layout of what the alien terrain looks like. Okay, a lot going on in this book. It is a really interesting book, And if you want to look at it this way, I consider it an allegory. Okay, where it's the meaning of it is if you step out of planet Earth, death will be awaiting, and that's basically what the story is about.
No tie in relation to Final Destination, where death is waiting for you. And
well, this is a completely different concept. It's a brand new idea in horror and science fiction, and a lot of interesting characters. And the sequel will be called The Imperium: The Wrath of Cornelius. Okay, and the theme of that book will be based on one thing: retribution.
If Tony Todd's in your book, I'm calling Final Destination.
I like that series. I watched all 5 movies. I think they made a 6th, didn't they?
Yes, I will tell you that when I saw the second one, I don't know if you remember the second one where the log truck breaks and all the logs fell. So I was driving on the road on the interstate and there was a truck. It came in front of me and debris started falling from the truck.
Wow.
And hit my car, and it was like a rock truck. So like it hit like my windshield and went over the hood and everything. And I had just watched that movie and I go, I don't know the design. I'm not ready to go, and I was like driving on the road and I just pulled off, but
right, that happened, Yes, a lot of exciting scenes within that movie series.
Mm-hmm.
One of which, and this is the only one I remember, is that girl having an altercation with her boyfriend, and she wanders out into the street, and all of a sudden, she gets ran over by a bus. That
Yes,
was one of those jump scare moments, in these horror movies,
exactly.
where it just wakes you up. You're kind of like dozing off, and all of a sudden, bam, you're awake.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of reminded me of that one segment of The Exorcist 3, with that nurse mulling around.
Oh yeah.
And that scene must have dragged on for about 2 minutes before it reached that jump scare moment with the Gemini killer coming right behind her with those surgical shears.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what makes horror interesting. If they're able to get you into a relaxed state and then get you to jump off out of your chair, that's awesome. And speaking of which, that's what the Empyrean does.
I did say it's not my time. I'm the plucky comic relief. There's somebody else. You got to save the comedy character. So if I read that and I feel anything outside in the world in Empyrean, I am the plucky relief. That's not gonna. I'm the one that gets a pass.
Exactly. It's the kind of story that will keep you captivated from beginning to end.
Yes.
And that's exactly that was my intention when I first broke ground with it, which was back in 2013. And the reason why it took me so long to get it published is because at that time I was taking courses, I was working jobs, taking care of my ill father, and back
Understood.
then I was just treating it as a hobby, just kicking it around here and there. And it wasn't until 2019, like I said in the first interview, that's when I started getting serious with it. It was around the pandemic time. And so right now, I have a full-blown company, 2Game Horror Publishing. It is a brand name company. And as its name implies, that's what it specializes in, horror, and sci-fi. And it's ironic because I mentioned to you, oh my God, probably a myriad of times that Matheson, it was my inspiration in writing,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking 2013 when I had first drafted the Empyrean. Well, that was the year he died, and I was like, oh man, because I really wanted to go to the conventions, meet him,
Mm-hmm.
and tell him what I had up my sleeve and all that stuff. Of course, he would have been pleased. He'd be like, wow.
Wow. It's an omen. I feel like saying in the classic horror. It's an omen.
his son writes horror as well, and I'll probably check out his material, very soon. So it's really good.
Have you read any of Stephen King's son, Joe Hill? Any of his books?
No, I haven't had the chance or the time yet.
Okay.
But speaking of which, I purchased a hardcover gold trimmed page of The Stand by Stephen King. It was last week after I had finished up my signing at books at Barnes and Noble in Tucson, and I looked at it. I said, you know what, I gotta buy it. You know what I mean? And The Stand is something that I hold dear to my heart. I just love that work.
Oh
And
yes.
I must have seen the movie for about 6 or 7 times.
Oh
The
yeah.
original. I didn't see the new one with Skarsgård and the rest of them, Whoopi Goldberg and the rest of them. But I like that book's version of the end of the world.
Was it a miniseries?
Yeah, it was a four
Episodes?
episode miniseries that aired in mid 1994,
Yeah.
and Molly Ringwald was in it. Who else? Well, Jamie Sheridan of Law and Order. And you had a few other well-known actors as well,
You
and they
had
all came together and making
yeah.
that production come to life. It was really good.
You had
And similar to The Stand, the Empyrean gives its own version of the apocalypse, and for those that are into dystopian fiction, they'll find that part of my book very appealing.
you had the guy who voiced Patrick from SpongeBob. He was in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
SpongeBob SquarePants. He's pretty popular.
he was also in Jennifer's Body also too, and just the classic horror line that he screams, and you could tell that it's Patrick, just really angry. I'll have to send it to you. I got a kick out of it. Oh.
Oh, and speaking of which, you mentioned Stephen King, and I want to share with your viewers that I had finished writing a story called The Christmas Night. Okay. And basically, what that centers on is an altruistic nurse who places humanity before herself. And there's this friend of hers, and it happens to be her best friend, who's ill and with the flu. Well, the flu is easy to overcome, but not in her situation because she was born without an immunity, or she was born with a weak immunity. Okay. And so she's in a very life-threatening situation. Okay. And unfortunately, this is occurring in the teeth of a blizzard. Okay.
Oh.
And she's way out there, 150 miles in the countryside. And she's in the hospital arguing with her doctor that she has to get to that house or else. And the doctor say, well, you're risking your life because there's a curfew in place. The National Guard is out rescuing people. Power lines are down. Houses are obliterated, and roads are closed. But it was her strong will, that convinced her doctor, hey, this is the oath I took. I'm here to save lives. And she goes out into the thick of that blizzard, and encounters all of these strange, interesting adventures before she reaches the house. And the question is, does she save her friend's life? Okay. And when I outlined this story, I really wanted a lot of Richard Matheson to be visible within the literature, but something ironic happened. After the book had written itself out, it looked more like Stephen King. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Something that he had written. I was like, oh my God. Well, that's not a bad thing. Stephen King is good, but Richard Matheson is my inspiration, And I'd like to share with your viewers what the front cover of The Christmas Night will look like. And I got the illustration right here. All right. And I hope you can see this. All right.
Oh.
It's a painting I had crafted about 2 months ago. There it is. Okay. And obviously that's the her sick friend there. Those are her parents. Why are her grandparents there and not her parents? You'll find out why. And there's your cat, Dan. I had to throw him in there, by the way.
Yeah.
Just kidding. It's a cat that belongs to her, has its own name, personality. You'll find out, and you'll learn a lot about this cat. There's the nurse, of course. She's going through her trials and tribulations. Okay. Well, she's out there in the countryside. You know what's out there as well? There's a bear. A mysterious vehicle. You'll know about that. And of course, and it's pretty obvious that there's a conflict between good and evil occurring in this whole storyline. You got the villain right there. Okay.
It makes me wonder if people are going to immediately think of a cocaine bear with the bear.
I hope not. And I have 2 more illustrations to craft. Okay. And then this book will be published. The story is already done. Okay? And so about 2 more weeks, I'll have the illustrations finished and they'll be sent over to a book formatter and they'll be good to go. And my editors are New York Times best-selling editors. And so these are not fly-by-night books you just read and throw aside. These are high-quality books.
Fancy. So to say. So, what has been the reception of people that you have met that maybe have bought your book or want to read your book when you've done these events or appearances?
All right. So, good question. Since the Empyrean made its debut last January, right, it's received 3 5-star ratings on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so I was grateful to see that. And then I conducted the book signings of books at Barnes & Noble, another place, Bisbee Books and Music. They're a store out there in Bisbee, Arizona. And I've been staging a lot of signings at the mall, local malls, and everything. And met a lot of interesting people. A lot of Stephen King fans. Twilight Zone fans, and naturally would engage in a lot of discussions on their works as well as the Empyrean and how the Empyrean was inspired by their ideas as well as mine. You know, and they would go on and on just talking about how the future will unfold, and talk about these books that give their viewpoint of how the future will appear, should a nuclear war happen or what would happen in the aftermath of such a catastrophe, And I had a great time. And the book sold many, many copies at those events. So I'm very, very grateful to have.
I feel like from what you're describing, it may lean towards some pop cultural references. Like not that you did that, it's just it's similar, a little bit from movies. I kind of think of when you were talking about the one book in the winter, like Silent Hill.
Silent Hill. Yeah, I
Mhm.
vaguely remember seeing that movie. I believe they made two movies of that
Yes.
with Pyramid Head. It was a bit of a while since I watched those movies. I believe it takes place in a dream or another realm. Is that right?
Well, you don't know that like in the beginning, like it's winter, they crash, they got to get to a house,
Oh
just
yes, and they find themselves in another dimension, I believe. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's
Well,
not
Empyrean
so
is
later.
yeah, it's somewhat similar, but when you read the Empyrean, you'll see that it's a concept in of its own, and it just takes the reader through this journey through a dark world, and they envision or they visualize in their minds how this future got mismanaged, by past governments, and of course the result is people dying by the droves, and the rush to go to this other destination that promises a better life. Does it? The reader will find out.
So it is all how you interpret within your imagination.
Because the story contains a major plot twist, like a Twilight Zone-esque plot twist at the end. Okay, that puts the reader in the position to be the judge of who the villains are and who the heroes are. Okay, now if it was similar to like Superman, where you know who the hero and villains are from beginning, well, that doesn't change throughout the story because that's how the story ends, with Lex Luthor and Superman being the villain and the hero, right? Because there's no plot twist there. It's straightforward. But with the Empyrean, there's this plot twist that um, gets people talking, provokes a lot of thought, and gives people a chance to express their opinion as to what really happened, okay, or who's to blame.
You heard he mentioned cat and you came.
Okay, so the cat's name in the Christmas night is Felix. Okay,
Okay.
you're gonna learn a lot about Felix, and your
Yes.
cat will like Felix.
Yes. Yes. Okay, Tilly, I will read the Imperium in Felix to you, so you
Yeah,
can.
right. She'll like both stories, I'm sure.
Yeah, she heard cat, came up here, crawled, looked, saw no cat, left, disappointed. But yeah, so um, are you eventually going to try and because I know sometimes they do this with books. Are you going to try to put like maybe an anthology together where all of them are together, or do you want them to be separated always?
Well, I'm going with the flow. I'm following the pattern of Hollywood. Okay, and
Mhm.
you probably wondered what that means. What I mean by that is that Hollywood plays with trilogies.
Mhm.
Every time they come out with a good movie, there's always two movies following it, and it ends right
Mhm.
there. And so that's what I'm planning on doing with the Empyrean, is coming out with a trilogy. Okay, so we got book one
Mhm.
written, published, and out of the way. So book two will be a continuation of part one, called The Empyrean, the Wrath of Cornelius, who is the main antagonist in the saga. All right. Then book 3, okay, that we call the Empyrean. Oh God, I forgot the name of it. What was that? The Empyrean, the Sixth Chamber. That's what it's called. Okay. Well, that particular story will gravitate in a Orwellian territory. Okay, where it has to do with mass surveillance. Okay, because what the Sixth Chamber means is that, remember that space station I had designed,
Mm-hmm.
and the one you saw earlier in the book. Okay,
Yes.
that's comprised of 5 chambers. Each chamber having its own function and purpose. Okay, and you learn everything about those chambers in book 1. Well, it just so happens a 6th chamber gets added onto that space station, and it has to do with surveillance and surveilling mankind. And how will this cult, this Caleb Cornelius, respond to that? You're going to find out.
When you mentioned chambers, I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is an older movie, and they had chambers, but they call it Fire in the Sky.
Oh yeah, that movie debuted in 1992.
Yes.
It had to do with an alien encounter of some sort.
Yes, and then he's like stuck in the goo, and like they're trying to operate his eye, and you're looking at the thing, and he was in a chamber, and that movie freaked me out because I was gonna get sucked up, and someone's gonna poke my eye.
I never saw the movie. I only saw the advertisements, but wow, they really poured the money into advertising that film. I remember it was like every time I turned on the television set, there it was, a commercial advertising Fire in the Sky. You know, it was like all over the place, but it didn't grab me to watch it. You know, but since you brought it up, you know, I'll put it on my A list.
Yeah, you have to see, my sister decided, hey, and she turned it on, and then like it's the one part where I see he gets abducted, you know, and they're doing it, and it's just like, ah.
Those kinds of movies are always popular, you know, very thought provoking.
Yeah, I was only 6 or 7 at the time. Mm-hmm. So I watch it now, and I was like, holy crap, no wonder I was scared. But I prefer Mars Attacks because that's more hilarious to me.
It was, you know, especially the one with, you're alluding to the one with Jack Nicholson, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. I remember that one part where he gets killed by the Martians, you know?
Yeah.
And as he's laying dead on the ground, the Martian flag comes out of his body.
Yeah, it goes.
You know, it's amazing how they make these scary, gory scenes appear comical. They can either make them appear scary or comical. You know, I guess that falls in the realm of dark humor. I don't know.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching it. It was hilarious.
And Jack Black was in it too.
Jack Black?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I have to go back and rewatch it. And it's ironic you mentioned about Mars Attacks, because I just purchased this little booklet containing all these Mars Attacks paintings within it. You know, very colorful stuff. I'll say that.
I always like making the little donut sign. And sometimes when I'm just talking to somebody and I want them to listen, but I don't want to, I can't think of the word, I go, and just make the oh, good times.
Bet.
So, just with all of these books coming into light, would it ever be possible for it to become like other books have, like we talked about The Stand and other stuff? Would it be possible for it to become a miniseries or a movie, or is it better just in book form?
Okay, I'd say in both, because we got all kinds of audiences out there, okay, with their own preferences. Okay, you got your book readers, got your movie watchers. Okay, so I believe it would be apropos to have every possible version of the Empyrean available to the public. Okay, and speaking of which, there was one reviewer that stated very powerfully that the Empyrean should be a movie, and that was a high compliment indeed. And he pointed out its originality, its uniquity, its how it captivates you, how it captivates the mind and everything. And he was really, really in awe of the work, you know. And but that wasn't the first time I heard that. Many people have read the books, had given me the same feedback. Okay, so I think it becoming a movie would be something really, really great, if done right, if thrown into the hands of the right director. Okay. And I have one in mind who would be awesome in making the Imperium, and bringing it to fruition.
Mm-hmm. Is there a certain actor or actress that would be possibly good? If you, not necessarily that you have to pick them, just if their name popped up.
Wow. When it comes to actors and actresses, right? I always gravitate to the ones that are starting off. All right. Because the ones who are starting off are going to put 1000% into what they do, to give that incredible impression so that they can land other roles. Okay. If you get these veteran actors and actors in there, they may not try as hard. You know what I mean? They may not go that extra mile as would the rookie. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So who would be best? I guess they'll be up in the air. Who would be best for playing Rick Reed? That's a hard shot, but hopefully someone's starting off. Same thing goes for his spouse, Jennifer. Okay. Someone's starting off, but that's not always the case. I see a lot of veteran actors really stepping on the gas in these roles, and they do an incredible job, and I'm just speaking in generalities,
Yes.
I'm not speaking straight truths. Okay.
Yes.
And but there's this one particular character in the novel. His name is Adrian Gordon. He's the one that runs the WSA Enterprise, okay, the space station, and everything below him. All right, he's the executive. And since he's up there in age, he's a septuagenarian. I figured Sean Connery would be ideal to play his part, all the way. But unfortunately, he's no longer with us, and so hopefully, there's other people similar to him that could play that role.
Ian McKellen, Gandalf?
Possibly. He's a good one. He's from Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. He did cross my mind. He did. And of course he's British as well as Gordon.
Yeah.
And so that he'd be an ideal fit, definitely.
You shall not pass the Imperia.
I can picture him saying that. Absolutely.
J.R. Tolkien. No, that's different line.
So it's that British accent intertwined with advanced age, wisdom, experience, and those are the traits that comprises the very entity of Adrian Gordon, the chief executive of the World Space Alliance and the Imperium.
Are there some casualties within the book, or is that you got to read and find out?
Well, since it is a post-apocalyptic book, right,
mm-hmm.
and there is a plague ravaging the world,
mm-hmm.
Yes, there's countless of fatalities, as a result of the plague, as a result of that nuclear war's effects, wreaking havoc on the atmosphere, allowing all this cosmic radiation, to penetrate the human race, and causing such conditions as skin cancer, anemia, cataracts, all kinds of skin conditions, and death. Okay, and of course the weakening of the immunity, which gives them, makes them even more vulnerable to the plague. Okay, and the plague to us would be something that would easily get over, but because of that radiation penetrating through the atmosphere and into the humankind, they have weak immunities, and therefore they're open and susceptible to that plague killing them.
Can a small comparison be with also the movie I Am Legend, where it's
I Am Legend? Well, yes, because I believe it has to do with an experimentation in relation to the military, because that's where the plague originates, is in a military facility. Okay,
yes,
in Maryland. All right, and that occurs 100 years prior to the current events in the Imperium. Okay, and so what happened in the Imperium is that they have this patient called Subject Zero, okay, who's already infected with the plague. Okay,
right.
And they're experimenting on him to learn everything about the virus. Okay, and the reason being is that they want to know not only know every aspect of the virus, but how to apply the virus to the enemy. So this has to do with warfare.
Yeah.
Okay? And so they're experimenting with Subject Zero and all that stuff. And to the lab's dismay, one of the technicians gets pricked with a needle containing the blood of Subject Zero. He doesn't say nothing. Okay, so it's a very awkward and cold moment, a cold scene within the movie, within the novel. Okay, and so he just says, "You know what? I'm paraphrasing. I'm going to go home. I had enough for today." And so he he leaves the lab infected with the plague, and he just spreads it to wherever he roamed, and that was the origin of the pandemic, so to speak. So, moving 100 years later, it's ravaging humankind. It's people are dying from it, and the governments are struggling to battle it. And they got this one antidote called Carinian. Okay, Carinian is that it's like a vaccine that combats the virus and helps hasten the recovery process for those infected. Okay, but that turns out to be a crisis in of its own, because since there's more people on the planet in this society, there's a shortage of Carinian.
Oh, wow.
Not good. There's a shortage of Carinian. That means there's going to be more people dying from the plague. Okay? So at the same time, we've got a cult right over here called the Temple of the Divine Circle. Okay? That is spearheaded by Caleb Cornelius, the antagonist, of the uber villain of the saga. Their belief is that, let's say this: they don't really make themselves noticeable until the sign appears in the heavens, which is second Genesis, that so-called promised destination. That destination promises humankind a better life. Okay. So when the WSA convenes with the world governments to implement an exodus to cart humanity to that planet, okay, the Temple of Divine Circle quickly intervenes and says, according to our prophecy, okay, that sign in the sky, okay, is nothing but a death trap for humankind, okay, as was spewed forth by their god Elon in the deep heart of the American desert 60 years prior. Okay, the one who received that dictation was Caleb Cornelius' father, Caden Cornelius. And anything that this god or this voice spoke to Caden, he immediately wrote it down. And after that experience ended, and he wrote all that together, that collectively became known as the Book of Elul, the cornerstone of the Divine Circle religion. Okay, and so
we gotta kind of wrap it up a little bit. I gotta get ready for my next guest.
Okay, so there's a battle going on, conflict between the world governments and the Divine Circle, and you'll find out who's right, who's wrong in regards to that alien destination. Okay, is it really a death trap for humankind, or is it another heaven?
All right. Well, I want to go ahead and thank my guest, Michael Machung, for being on Dan-A-Plooza. Stay tuned next for Tiffany Flamingo.
All right. Have a good one.